Well, here's my 1952 Ferguson, I believe it's a to30, based off of the plate. I've got the hood and the gas tank off because I'm rewiring it for 12 volt because it was half 12 volt, half 6 volt. So I'm simplifying everything. This is everything that I pulled out: voltage regulator, push button start, starter solenoid, and like that's pretty much how it looked when it was installed. So I've still missing the ignition switch. I'm waiting for that to show up, but basically I've converted to a 12 volt coil, and it's just pretty basic. They have a built-in starter solenoid in the stick shift, which I'll show you. So starter wire to the starter solenoid, solenoid up to the battery. You've got ignition for the coil, and this alternator's broken because they didn't install it correctly, but this is a GM 3-wire alternator. So it just has a jumper that goes to the field and a jumper that goes to the ignition. The charge wire just goes behind the block and goes to the battery side of the starter solenoid. Just a ground wire. That's it. And besides headlights, that's the whole wiring system. So on these, they don't have a starter switch. Let's wire it up. It's got a stick shift, so it's 4-speed, reverse, and it actually has, if you push up, that's the starter switch. So my ignition wire for the coil, I'll just tag into the positive post for now, and should start. This is the first start. This is the throttle lever. And then when I want to shut it off, I would just turn off the key. I still need to get a charge light for the alternator. That way it has a load, so I don't have to have a voltage regulator. It's all built into the alternator. And that's it. So next step will be to source a GM 1-wire or 3-wire alternator, and then I'll have a charging system. Another day and another project. Decided to do a new alternator since the GM one I had was bad, and I work at an import shop. So I got this Toyota, basically 3-wire alternator. Same thing, battery, ignition, lamp. Made a quick little bracket to test it, but it all lines up. And I need to get a voltmeter and still the ignition switch, but ignition on. So the only 2 oil leaks that I found after pressure washing this was the PTO shaft seal and then one of the steering shaft seals. But today I'm going to get this overrun coupler off. It's for a brush hog. And it looks like the 2 Zerk fittings that come on it or broke off. So it's gonna be interesting to get this pin out. There's a pin here. It's gonna be pushed through, then this guy can come off. Then I can take this plate off and then replace the seal and the gasket behind the plate. So I'm going to get this off and then show the next steps. So here's the PTO shaft taken out. I'm gonna order a new gasket. It actually looks really good. I don't see any signs of wear on it. When you look inside the housing, nothing's going on in there. So I'm going to, there's a C-clip in here. Right there, I'm gonna pop out, and once that pops out, then the flange can come off, and then I can inspect the bearing as well, make sure everything's good there. And everything's good with the bearing, then I'll just grab a new seal. I was able to get the PTO shaft out of the housing with the bearing. The bearing looks good, so I'm not gonna have to replace that. Got this guy. This is the bearing support seal holder. Here's the seal. It is an original seal. It has 3, I guess, levels of leather. Each black section is actual leather. So that is a, I don't even know, it's a 1951, so 73-year-old seal. And I don't know how long it's been leaking, but the fluid's still pretty full, so I assume it just leaked when the previous owner didn't use it and then parked it. So I'm just gonna get new gasket, new seal, clean this guy up, slap it back together, and then the PTO one will be all sealed and ready to go. And then in the process, there's a broken Zerk fitting on each side of this. This one looks like this fitting's gone, so that's good. Just getting that one out and then replacing it, cleaning it up, re-greasing it, and that'll all be done. So here's the coupler with the new Zerk fittings in it. Got it all cleaned up. Then we had the carrier for the PTO shaft. Cleaned it all up, painted it. Ended up finding locally in town at Napa. It's a SKF part number. It's the same part number, the 16204. So SKF 16204. This is a, I don't know if I can get a good picture of it. It's a double lip seal. It's hard to tell. It's a double lip seal. It's about $48. They had it in stock. So it pressed right in. So I'll load the bearing in the shaft and put the circlip back in. Couldn't find a gasket locally, but the gasket was still good. It just had the, looks like just the ears broken off on 2 sides. So I'll just end up siliconing it on each side and installing it. And then that should fix that leak. Next would be the steering output seal. So I'll get it installed and get a photo or a video of it. Here it is installed. Like I said, I was gonna silicone on each side of the gasket. Cleaned up the area, so I guess the real test tonight or overnight would be to see if it leaks. I have a lift in my shop, so I was able to lift up the back side of the tractor just so I wouldn't lose any fluid. So I'll drop it down and see if I have a puddle in the morning, and that should do it. So everything seems to be fine. The coupler, you know, just there's a pin that goes through, and then when you lock the PTO up, it allows it to free spin, and then it'll lock up. So that should all be good now.